What feels like delay often strikes the heart as disappointment, but in the spiritual realm, delay can be one of the clearest signs of divine involvement. When movement is slowed and progress seems blocked, the natural instinct is to assume something has gone wrong. Yet many times, what appears to be stagnation is actually intentional restraint. God does not delay randomly, and he does not withhold progress out of indifference. Delay becomes a shield when the timing is wrong, when unseen dangers are ahead, or when the soul is not yet fortified to carry what it is asking for. The chosen ones experience this more intensely because their future carries weight, influence, and consequence. There are moments when everything within you is ready to move, but circumstances refuse to align. You've done the work, you've prepared, you've prayed, and still nothing opens. This is where frustration grows because effort without visible reward feels unfair. But effort is not wasted simply because it is unseen. Delay is often God standing between you and something that would have harmed you if accessed too early. What you cannot perceive yet is that the delay is blocking outcomes you would not survive emotionally, spiritually, or mentally at this stage. Protection rarely looks gentle in the moment. It often feels restrictive, uncomfortable, and even confusing. You question your worth, your calling, and your direction because movement has become slow, but protection does not always feel like comfort. Sometimes it feels like limitation. God's protection can come in the form of unanswered prayers, closed doors, and stalled plans. What hurts the most is not knowing why, yet trust is formed precisely in that uncertainty. Faith matures when you learn to wait without understanding. Many dangers are not obvious threats. They are disguised opportunities. Something can look like progress and still be destructive. A door can open too soon and expose you to pressure you are not equipped to handle. A relationship can advance before discernment is developed. A platform can be given before humility is rooted. Delay blocks premature success because premature success often leads to silent collapse. God would rather protect your future than satisfy your impatience. Delay also protects you from yourself. There are seasons when passion is high, but wisdom is still forming. Decisions made in haste can permanently alter direction. God restrains action to refine discernment. Waiting teaches you how to listen instead of rush, how to observe instead of assume, and how to obey instead of control. In delay, you learn the difference between desire and alignment. Not everything you want is something you are ready to carry. There is also an unseen alignment taking place during the waiting period. While you focus on what isn't happening, God is rearranging what must happen together. Timing is rarely about one person. It is about multiple factors converging at the right moment. People, places, resources, and internal growth must align. If one piece is missing, movement would be premature. Delay ensures that when progress finally comes, it comes with stability rather than struggle. For the chosen ones, delay is intensified because the consequences of being early are greater than the pain of being late. Moving too soon could damage credibility, faith, or endurance. God delays not to deny, but to defend. He sees what you cannot see and blocks what you cannot anticipate. What feels like lost time is actually preserved destiny. Eventually, clarity arrives. Looking back, you recognize that what you once prayed for would have overwhelmed you if it had arrived earlier. The delay that once felt cruel reveals itself as mercy. Protection does not always announce itself, but its evidence is seen in what never destroyed you. When you understand this, patience replaces panic and trust replaces fear. Delay no longer feels like abandonment. It becomes proof that you were guarded when you were most vulnerable. Restraint carries a message that is easy to misunderstand. When movement is limited, when freedom feels restricted, the instinct is to assume rejection or punishment, but restraint is often evidence of value. No one carefully guards what has no worth. God restrains what he intends to preserve, protect, and eventually release with purpose. If there were nothing special about the calling, there would be no need for boundaries. The very fact that restraint exists signals that something significant is being safeguarded. In everyday life, valuable things are handled with care. Precious items are stored securely, protected from damage, and kept away from careless use. The same principle applies spiritually. God does not expose chosen ones to unnecessary risk. When he limits access, controls timing, or narrows options, it is not because he doubts them, but because he sees their potential more clearly than they do. Restraint is not a sign of mistrust. It is a sign of intentional investment. Many struggle during seasons of restraint because they compare their journey to others who seem to move freely and advance quickly. It appears unfair when others bypass rules, skip steps, and still succeed. But different assignments require different levels of preparation. Those entrusted with greater influence must endure deeper refinement. God allows some to move quickly because their impact is limited, but he restrains others because their decisions will affect many lives. The greater the reach, the tighter the boundaries during formation. Restraint also protects against pride. Rapid success without internal grounding can distort identity. When things come too easily, it becomes tempting to credit self rather than grace. God restrains to root humility deeply. He allows frustration to expose dependence, reminding the chosen ones that strength alone is not enough. In restraint, reliance on God is strengthened not as a concept, but as a lived necessity. This dependence becomes essential later when pressure increases and applause grows louder. There are moments when restraint feels like confinement, as if every attempt to break free is met with resistance. But confinement is often where focus is sharpened. Distractions are reduced, noise is minimized, and attention is redirected inward. God restrains to bring clarity. When options are limited, purpose becomes clearer. You stop chasing everything and begin discerning what truly matters. Restraint strips away false urgency and reveals true direction. Another reason God restrains what he values is because exposure too early can cause damage. Visibility without maturity invites attack without defense. Influence without discernment invites compromise. God shields what is growing until it is strong enough to withstand pressure. Just as a seed develops underground before breaking the surface, restraint provides the darkness necessary for roots to form. What grows deep will eventually stand tall. Restraint also builds obedience. When progress depends on permission rather than impulse, patience is cultivated. Learning to wait trains the heart to listen. Obedience formed in restraint becomes instinctive in release. Those who learn to move only when guided are less likely to derail when momentum increases. God restrains to train responsiveness, ensuring that future actions are aligned rather than reactive. The pain of restraint often comes from not knowing how long it will last. Uncertainty tests faith more than difficulty. Yet restraint teaches endurance. It strengthens emotional stability and spiritual resilience. By the time release comes, the chosen ones are no longer desperate for it. They're ready to handle it without being controlled by it. When restraint is finally lifted, it becomes clear that nothing was wasted. The boundaries that once felt restrictive become the reason stability exists. God's restraint is never about limitation for its own sake. It is about preservation. What is valued is protected until the moment it can be revealed without being destroyed. Walking away is often misunderstood as weakness, fear, or failure, but in the spiritual life, walking away can be one of the strongest expressions of faith. It takes courage to release what is familiar, especially when emotions, history, or comfort are attached to it. Faith is not only demonstrated by what you pursue, but also by what you are willing to leave behind when God calls the chosen ones to walk away. It is not because they are losing something valuable, but because they are being preserved for something greater. Many hold on to relationships, environments, or habits because they once served a purpose. The difficulty comes when that purpose expires, but attachment remains. God's instruction to walk away often arrives when something that once helped you now hinders you. Staying out of loyalty to the past can quietly sabotage the future. Faith requires recognizing when alignment has shifted and having the courage to move accordingly, even when it hurts. Walking away also challenges identity. When you have invested time, effort, and emotion into something, it becomes part of how you see yourself. Letting go can feel like losing a piece of who you are. But identity rooted in God is not dependent on people, positions, or places. Faith grows when you trust that what defines you cannot be taken by what you leave. God often calls for separation to refine identity, not diminish it. There are moments when walking away feels unjust. You may feel misunderstood, unappreciated, or even wronged. The temptation is to stay and fight for validation or to prove your worth. Faith, however, chooses peace over performance. Walking away is an act of trust that God will handle what you cannot control. It releases the burden of defending yourself and places it in hands greater than your own. Walking away also protects spiritual sensitivity. Remaining in spaces that drain faith, feed fear, or normalize compromise dulls discernment. Over time, you stop noticing what once disturbed you. God calls his chosen ones to walk away, not to isolate them, but to preserve their clarity. Distance creates perspective. Separation sharpens hearing. When you step away from constant noise, you can recognize truth more clearly. Another reason walking away requires faith is because the outcome is uncertain. There is no guarantee of immediate replacement. You leave without knowing what comes next. This tests trust deeply. Faith is stretched when obedience costs you comfort without offering instant security. God often withholds details to develop reliance. Walking away before seeing the provision strengthens dependence on His guidance rather than on predictable outcomes. Walking away also breaks unhealthy cycles. Some patterns persist simply because they are familiar. God interrupts these cycles by calling for separation. Faith is required to believe that repetition does not equal destiny. When you walk away, you disrupt what has been looping for years. This break creates space for transformation. It allows God to introduce new rhythms, healthier connections, and renewed direction. There is also a quiet authority that develops when you learn to walk away without bitterness. You do not leave with anger or revenge, but with obedience and peace. This posture protects the heart from being hardened by disappointment. Faith chooses obedience without resentment. Walking away in the right spirit ensures that what you leave does not follow you into the future emotionally. For the chosen ones, walking away is not abandonment, it is alignment. God does not remove something without intending to replace it with something that better serves purpose. Faith believes that loss under instruction is not loss at all, but transition. Walking away becomes a declaration that God's direction matters more than comfort, familiarity, or approval. Preparation is often invisible, and because it cannot be easily measured, it is frequently underestimated. Many people desire advancement without understanding what advancement demands. Promotion is not merely about access to new opportunities. It is about the capacity to remain effective once those opportunities arrive. This is why preparation must come before promotion. Being elevated too quickly can expose weakness rather than success. God is not only concerned with getting you to the next level, but with keeping you there without losing yourself in the process. It is possible to have talent that opens doors while lacking the inner strength required to stay beyond them. Skill may attract attention, but character determines longevity. Without preparation, the pressure of new responsibility can fracture identity. Decisions become reactive, emotions become unstable, and discernment becomes clouded. God delays elevation to strengthen the internal foundation. Preparation shapes responses long before challenges appear. Preparation also refines motives. When advancement is delayed, hidden intentions surface. It becomes clear whether the desire is rooted in purpose or in validation. Waiting strips away false ambition and exposes what truly drives the heart. God uses this season to realign priorities, ensuring that when promotion comes, it serves the assignment rather than ego. A person prepared in motive will not misuse influence for personal gain. Growth during preparation often feels slow because transformation is gradual, habits are reshaped, perspectives are corrected, and maturity is formed through repetition and resistance. God uses ordinary, unnoticed moments to develop extraordinary endurance. Preparation is not dramatic, but it is decisive. What is learned in obscurity becomes essential in visibility. Without this formation, success becomes fragile. Another aspect of preparation is learning restraint in response. Higher levels bring higher pressure. Criticism becomes louder, expectations increase, and mistakes carry greater consequences. Preparation teaches emotional regulation. Instead of reacting impulsively, a prepared person responds with wisdom. God allows smaller tests now to prevent larger failures later. Each delay, each challenge and each closed door serves as training for what is ahead. Preparation also involves learning to manage responsibility without recognition. Serving faithfully without applause builds integrity. When promotion finally arrives, identity is not tied to position because value was already established in unseen work. God prepares hearts to lead by first teaching them how to serve. Authority that is not rooted in humility becomes destructive, both to the person and to those they influence. There is also the preparation of discernment at higher levels. Not every opportunity is beneficial. Being unprepared leads to overcommitment and distraction. God sharpens discernment during waiting seasons by limiting choices and forcing reflection. You learn to distinguish between good options and aligned ones. This ability becomes critical when opportunities multiply. Preparation develops trust in timing rather than control. When you are forced to wait, you learn to surrender outcomes. This surrender creates flexibility and peace. A prepared person is not driven by urgency, but guided by alignment. They are able to move decisively without panic. God values this internal steadiness more than external speed. Many resist preparation because it feels like stagnation. But preparation is movement in a different direction. It moves inward before it moves outward. What is being built cannot yet be seen, but it is being secured. God prepares those He intends to promote by strengthening their inner life so that success does not become a burden. When promotion comes without preparation, it exposes immaturity. When preparation comes before promotion, it produces confidence without arrogance. God's order protects both the calling and the person carrying it. The season of preparation may feel quiet, but it is deeply productive. Everything formed now will sustain what is released later.